I want to go over quickly scoring and rules for the Rec Plus tournaments. These rules and scoring have been the same for a number of years. I don't expect them to change, but they can change. So this video may go out of date. So the first thing I want to mention is that any Premier, if there's a lot of teams in a division, will break up the division, and they will not always do it in a balanced or even way. They will, if there is six good teams and three awful teams, they sometimes will put the six good teams in a tournament together, and they'll put three bad teams together. They try to balance out talent ladder when they do it. So sometimes the top division is three teams, bottom division is six. It just depends, but they will try to balance it. For Indy Premier, the black division is always the best teams, silver are the second best teams, and the white are the worst teams from the regular season. Additionally, they will seed your tournament before you play all your games. So at some point, they snapshot, and it's random. It's usually in the last 2 weeks of the season, I'll say that, and say, okay, what are the results right now? And they will then choose to seed the tournament accordingly. So that can mean that you sometimes don't get as favorable a seeding as you would like because of the way it's done. With that said, then let's just go look at one of these, and we're going to use this U14 girls as an example. Scoring wise, when your team wins a game, you get 3 points. Whoever has the most points, the top two teams with the most points, go to the championship game. So you're trying to win games essentially, right? But even if you win both your games in certain scenarios, it doesn't mean you make the championship game. Because it's possible sometimes, because of the way that the tournament works, there's enough teams in it that three teams can win both their games. So if you lose, you get 0 points, and if you draw or you tie, you get 1 point. Now in this scenario, nobody drew, everyone lost. Let's see if we can find one where some draws happened here. Maybe here. All right, here we go. A little more mixed up here. So in this case, we had two teams win. Then we have a team that won and drew, and then we have a team that lost and drew. But if you win, you get 3 points. If you draw, you get 1 point. If you lose, you get zero. Then first thing that happens then is your goals for you and goals against you are big factors. Goals for you are the biggest factor in Indy Premier tournaments to make you move on in the tournament. So let's look at those tiebreakers. So head-to-head matches against the team are the number one decider. Frequently because it's seeded. If there were three teams that were undefeated, because there's enough teams, there will never be, you wouldn't play each other head to head in the tournament, so it doesn't come into play. But if you do play each other head to head, whoever won that game would get the nod first and foremost. If you tied though, then you go to number two, which is goal differential. So what this does is encourages running up the score, and so we were the coach of this team, and we ran the score up because we had played in the fall, and we had to score 8 goals in our final game, even though we went undefeated in order to make the championship game, which we did. But we had to because the Indy Premier teams had run the score up on their own teams, and so we had to run the score up against the team. We don't like doing that, but that is part of that's the number one differential. Then when you next one is goals against, so who gave the fewest goals, who scored the most goals, and then who had the most shutouts are the tiebreaker. And you're going to say to yourself, well, and then finally there's a penalty shootout. Penalty shootouts do occur. I had a team one year. Everything was tied up evenly across all of these five categories. We had to have a penalty shootout right before the championship match. Decide who played in it. We lost it. You know, we're there in our full uniforms, ready to play. We don't play soccer. So definitely try to avoid that by knowing what you need to do. The final piece is scoring input. So you may need to put your own scores in because you want to make sure the results come in. Referees are going to be told to put scores in for these games, but they don't always do it in a timely manner, and it's might be easier. So works the same way as always. You do your scoring input. You have to have the pin number. This probably was this one, but I don't know what it was at this point. Yeah, it was. And then just select your, age division and group, and you can do your normal scoring input and just hit save. It does take a few minutes for it to update once you do that, so you don't expect it as soon as you hit that to immediately just show up that your score is here on this table. It will take it maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you see an updated score. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong, it just takes a little bit of time. So this is the kind of stuff that you need to know, but we'll also be going over in our Rec Plus training.